Hi everyone, welcome to the Bourbon Obsessed New Bourbon Releases News Podcast, your commercial-free and therefore money-free bourbon podcast for Monday, November 17. I am Ed, and my usual co-host, friend, and bourbon aficionado, Dean Langdon, is back from assignment, so he'll be joining me again today. Dean, how are you doing? How did everything go while you were on assignment?
The assignment was very difficult, Ed, but I had to soldier through. We spent a week down in the Bahamas, way too much time just sitting in a beach chair or sitting in front of wonderful food and decent alcohol. But the assignment went well, so I survived.
Do they make a whiskey in the Bahamas?
Rum, yeah, I think there's a local rum, and I'm just not a rum fan. So I mean, there were scores of different rums available, and I tried exactly zero of them, I'm
Really?
afraid. So,
Huh. And
um,
there's no whiskey distilleries at all? That's not a thing they do?
we ran across a craft brewery actually called Riptide,
Huh.
spelled RYP, but did not run across any distilleries. No, no.
Huh. Yeah, I mean, I guess, well, they could make single malts if they can make beer.
If they can, yeah, right, they
So,
could, but I saw no signs of any
hmm.
any local products. You know, we were in a touristy area. We weren't. We were in the big city of Nassau, and so there probably would have been products. I mean, I had half a dozen liquor stores, and I think that if there was a local whiskey, I would have run across it and did not. So,
Did you pick up anything, though? Because you could do duty free.
so I found this thing called Shanky's Whip. It's from Ireland. It's not local. It is it's spirits distilled from whey with natural colors and flavors.
Huh.
So we'll see. I also picked up a bottle of Lafroig in the duty free shop, a triple cask finish, which is apparently just available on to travelers. So it had a bourbon cask, a regular quarter cask, and then a PX sherry cask at various stages in its life. So that
Hmm.
ties in nicely with the recent review of the Lafroig Elements
Yeah, I really
on the
liked that. I mean, that was
yeah.
for anybody who's watching who's not familiar with it. It was a single malt, of course, and it's peated like the virtually all of Lafroig's are, as far
Hmm.
as I know. But the kiln fire had burned for longer and hotter than normal, or the peat fire, whatever that heats it. So
Hmm.
it was very peaty, but I'm a fan of peat, so I actually really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, Lafroig is one of my favorite scotches, and so that's the one I settled on. You know, there were all sorts of different Johnny Walker iterations, and great. They have a great selection of scotch in that part of the world. Bourbon, not so much. You know, I did get actually one of the bars had Michter's 10,
hmm,
and so I had a very nice pour of Michter's 10-year-old rye. They had both bourbon and rye. It was like $40 for a pour, which I thought was fair.
yeah,
You
it's not
know,
horrible. I mean, it's a
yeah.
two hundred dollar bottle.
The higher end stuff tended to be more reasonable price wise than
That's
than your Maker's Mark. You know, the Maker's Mark is $18, and it's okay for the $20 more. I'm going to get the Michter's 10. Thank you very much.
that's the kind of thinking I like to hear.
So what did you do this week? I know you weren't on the beach, but I'm sure you were out having fun and enjoying good bourbon. So.
I did a lot of bourbon events. I mean, I had two Friendsgivings already, and then I've had leftovers for breakfast. So I'm already about. I'm not going to say I've had it with Thanksgiving food because I really like Thanksgiving food, but that's quite a bit to already be eating a couple weeks
Hmm.
before. So we had one of the Friendsgivings with our bourbon group KBI, and then I
Right.
went to the other Friendsgiving at Beam at the kitchen table, and they were both great. Obviously, getting together with friends for our bourbon group was great, and we had some
Yeah.
really good food and a bunch of good whiskey. The majority of it being wild turkey products of one form or another, and then the Beam dinner was great. The food was really good, and we had a really good flight with that as well. We had the Lineage 2. We had the Little Book Infinite 2. We
Oh,
had the
great.
Booker's Reserve 2. And ooh, what was the other thing?
Did you get the 2025 four Bookers, the Phantom Pipes?
No, just the
Didn't get
reserves
that?
too. Yeah, no, we didn't get
Yeah.
that. But what was the fourth thing? Well, it was good. um, yeah,
So
interesting.
yeah, no, I was looking at the Infinite too, and we'll be talking more about that. But that's on my acquisition list. That's a
Yeah,
bottle of that. So,
it was good. I mean, quite honestly, the Lineage too. I bought yet another bottle of it, and that's an expensive bottle. But every time
yeah.
I try it, I just say this is great. It was my favorite one of the flight, and
Hmm.
the last time I tried it, it was on a flight, and it was my favorite one on the flight. And it's they're limited, and you can only get it there. So I figure what's another $250?
But that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I ended up getting a bottle of that, but I'll have to try it at your house and see if I want to go spring for a second one.
Well,
They don't seem to sell through those all that quickly, so that's a good thing, you know. And you're right, it's a price point where not everybody's going to be in the market for that, but um,
no. And I'm trying to remember if it's actually always out there or if they only put it out for special dinners and things
mm,
like that.
mhm.
Because in the past, for Lineage 1, it wasn't always out. It would get brought out for certain tours, and if you did any of their dinners or other special things that they would sell it after. So it's probably the
Yeah,
same. But
yeah, I think that's probably right.
that was great. And then last night we had a just with the Bourbon Capital Guild Preservation Distillery Plus
Hmm.
Farm. I mean, it's full name. Nobody ever calls it that, but
Yeah.
Preservation Distillery. The folks there just gave us an absolutely phenomenal evening with like a full dinner and a
Hmm.
flight of a really nice selection of their whiskeys and cocktails. We had a great time. I mean, they really have just incredible hospitality, and their whiskey is really good. And it's just very cool how they span the spectrum from their own, pot still distilled things.
Hmm.
They're both a bourbon and they have a rye now also, and the rye was actually really good. I mean, the bourbon is good. I've had that before, but I'm
Sure.
commenting about the rye because I honestly didn't even know there was a rye until a week ago. But I heard it came out at the Bourbon Festival, and I have no idea how I would have missed it
Yeah, I don't
there
remember seeing that.
because,
Yeah.
but at least I've tried it now. It was very good. It was a very good rye, and then it's everything in the spectrum from that to some of the sourced column still things that they make. I think some of the column
Hmm.
still is distilled with their own mash bill, and others are things that are just outright sourced. And then
Right.
they're all the older things that they have as well. So it's just a huge spectrum of whiskeys you can try there. It's I don't
Hmm.
know. I can't really think of too many other places that have a spectrum of stills and combination of their own and
Yeah.
sourced and then
Endorsed.
very well
That's neat.
aged things all in one place where there you can actually do a flight like that. But yeah,
Hmm.
no, it was fantastic, and we everybody had a great time, obviously, and it
Right.
was very nice of them to do that for us. So
Yeah. Well, once I had booked this vacation, I saw I was going to be missing not only the KBI, Friendsgiving, but also the Kentucky Bourbon Festival volunteer party. And it's like, well, you know what? I'm still have to go on vacation. So
oh, well, we didn't even
have,
talk
have-
about that. The Kentucky Volunteer Party was really good too. We had
yeah.
some phenomenal pours there,
Hmm. Hmm.
and of course a good time. And someone I know very well baked a whole bunch of cookies, so those were very popular. And
I
uh,
caught the reference to that on the last podcast. So yeah, it's a cookies are always good. They go well with bourbon, especially chocolate chip cookies, right?
And then
So
Stacy did a phenomenal job with the charcuterie table, and
mm,
it was like an entire table. It was a lot.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it was yeah, very nice.
Well,
Yeah.
that's good. Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting back into bourbon culture this week because I'm a little bit starved.
Well, you can dive right in. There's always something.
There is. Yeah, yeah.
All right,
So
we better dive right in because we have
we
19
should.
things to get through.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll start with Castle and Key releases the 2025 edition of its cask strength wheated bourbon, now aged 7 years and bottled at 108.2 proof. The distillery released its first cask strength bourbon last year, and now it's back with this second release. Made from a mash bill of 73% white corn, 10% winter wheat, and 17% malted barley, this year's release continues the brand's signature wheated style with added complexity from extended aging. It's available in select states and at the Castle and Key gift shop. And I'm not sure why they gave this price range for the SRP, but they did. So it's $60 to $65.
If you go down there on a weekday, it's 60. If you go the weekend, it's 65,
Well,
right?
I
But
wonder
who
what that,
knows, right? Yeah.
or is it different price that there's the outpost in Louisville, maybe? I have no
Could
idea.
be. Yeah, yeah.
But
Right. So,
either way, good. That's a
I
good
mean,
price for a 7-year cask strength.
yeah, it is. Yeah, I mean, Castle and Key's always been pretty fair on their pricing, I find, and
They have,
that's a relatively low wheat percentage in the mash bill. I mean, of course, it's a wheater because it's got wheat instead of rye, but 10% isn't all that huge when you look at the grand scheme of things, calling it a wheated bourbon. So I'm interested to see, and it's winter wheat, which I think is usually a little bit softer and milder than some of the other varieties out there. So I'm interested to taste this and see how it is.
yeah. Well, actually, and the 17% malted barley is fairly high too. I mean, that's what
Mhm.
it's almost double the amount of wheat. I'm assuming it was the same mash bill last year, but I thought last year's was good. I guess that was a 6-year uh, cast strength.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, their bourbon is definitely the extra age that it's been getting has been doing it good because it was released at 4 years old, I believe,
Right.
originally,
Right.
and we've just continued to see changes in it. So yeah, I'd like to try that as well.
Yeah.
All right, and then
Well,
next we have another one from
they got an experimental rye coming out with it. So you're going to tell us about that next.
yes. So the latest in Castle and Key's experimental series, the straight rye whiskey is finished for 18 months in extra old Haitian rum casks and bottled at 116.1 proof. Yeah, who would have known the rum was so appropriate to our prior conversation? The mash bill is 63% rye, 17% corn, and 20% malted barley. Only 1,800 cases were produced, available online in select states in select states. And again, it's got the price range for the suggested retail price of $65 to $70.
And digressing slightly, I just had a friend get a bottle of the last experimental rye series, which was a Calvados finish, and it was very tasty. I feel really confident this one's going to be really good too. It's interesting. Again, we talked about the mash bill. It's got a high barley
Yeah,
content in these mash bills, so it's interesting to see that. And I'd love to try this next to something else because there are, of course, Rhum-finished ryes out there. Something that you could, lean the mash bill on and see if you can really tell the difference or not. I don't know that my palate would be able to tell the difference. Um, this one was 18 months in these rum barrels, which is a little bit of a long time.
hmm
I've had these that have been overly sweet. Um, I'm guessing that Castle and Key didn't do that, and this is going to come out very subtly rummy, for lack of a better word.
yeah. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, as we've talked before, I mean, I think we both agree that these sweeter finishes are much better with rye than with bourbon. So,
Yes.
I don't expect it to be overly sweet. I mean, looking at the mash bill, I guess that's what all their rye mash bills are. I'd have to go back and look, but that 20% malted barley certainly does stand out.
Yeah, it does. And I wonder, yeah, I have to go back and look at the mash bill too. That strikes me as really high. I think I would expect one of us would have noticed that before now if that was their traditional mash bill, but
Or maybe they
um,
just haven't put the mash bill on things. I don't know
it could
because
be that too. Yeah. I mean, just tune in next week, folks, and
yes.
the answer to this mystery will be revealed.
But we haven't really talked about one of their rides though, because they haven't, other than experimental series, they haven't come out with, or if the rides are getting older, honestly, I think they are. there haven't been press releases for us to discuss about them. So
Yeah, I think they've done. I think they've done a lot. I mean, I know the Lexington Bourbon Society got to pick a barrel early on, and
hmm
I've enjoyed that over and over. They've got this experimental series, but they don't put out press releases. I mean, I've seen some single barrels, um, and I think they've had the experimental series for a while. They used to call it something else. They used to have like a wool gatherer and things like that.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
um,
because I have some of the wool gatherers. I mean, one was the orange wine,
yeah, the
but
Rhum-finished, yeah,
yeah,
which was very tasty.
it was that one was actually was really good. I haven't had all that many of them. Yeah, I think the last press release they put out was for their small batch 6-year bourbon, which is I think now their standard bourbon,
Hmm.
which I will review one of these days. But yeah, I mean we don't see an awful lot of them. They come out as their mailings, so I mean I usually do include them if I just get the newsletters, and it doesn't have to be a press release. But
Yeah,
yeah,
right, right.
all right. So we should, I guess, keep moving
We
so we
should.
don't go to 3 hours. The- So next is Garrison Brothers 2025 Cowboy Bourbon. It returns for its 11th annual release, aged 8+ years and bottled at a bold 146.4 proof. This unfiltered, uncut Texas straight bourbon is hand selected by master distiller Donis Todd and limited to just 10,000 bottles, with the first 1,000 released on site in High, Texas on December 6th. So still got a couple weeks. And the suggested retail price is $250.
There's hazmat and there's hazmat, and when you get to like 146, that's true hazmat.
Oh yeah.
And so I think it's got to be hard for something at that proof level to just not sort of take your nose away and take your head off when you take the first sip. But I could be wrong. They could have found the magic way to mellow this. And since it's been aged in Texas, I suppose that could be a big part of it. But it's a really high proof, for those of you who like that.
Well, I mean, the Texas distilleries have had to deal with that high evaporative rate
Hmm.
for a long time, and Garrison Brothers, I think they went to the larger barrels, but they went to thicker barrels, so the wall thickness of the barrels is increased to try to decrease their loss. Because I think their earliest barrels, they tell the story how were empty, after.
Yeah,
So you don't
yeah,
want that to happen. And I
right.
don't. The press release didn't talk about it for the. Have you had the Cowboy bourbons before?
I never had, no. Mm.
They're good. I mean, I haven't had one recently. The last one I had was a few years ago.
Hmm.
They used to be. I thought. I mean, somebody can correct me because it doesn't say anything about this in this press release, and maybe it's changed now that it's up to 10,000 bottles. But I thought with their early releases, they were actually specifically their short barrels. So they were very concentrated and very high proof. And they
Hmm.
blended all those together to create the Cowboy Bourbon. So it was this very flavorful, high proof bourbon, which was actually very good. Uh, I don't know if that's still the case. I'd have to look back. 10,000 bottles is probably significantly larger than their first batch of
Yeah,
Cowboy
yeah.
Bourbon, which if this is the 11th annual release, that would have been quite a while ago, and I doubt they had that many, to short barrels to make that. So,
Hmm.
uh,
Hmm.
at this point, I don't know. I mean, they may be more selected rather than
Yeah, they could
special.
be, but boy, just to achieve that proof point, I mean, it had to be those barrels had to have some age on it, even in Texas, right? Because yeah, you're right. That's a lot of bottles compared to, it's certainly not multiple barrels, but boy, with the loss, with the evaporation in Texas, to get that proof point up, it was, I don't know, 20, 30, 40 barrels
uh,
to get to that quantity.
yeah, I mean and that proof for them. Yeah, I mean they have Rick. I haven't been down there in a while, but and maybe this has changed. But they had rick houses, but then they also had like the pods, like the metal pods that they age some
Hmm.
barrels in. So needless to say, those things would get very hot
Yeah.
in the Texas heat. So those barrels that would age in those would certainly get concentrated and very high proof. But I don't know. Like I said, it's been years since I've been down there, so I don't know if those have been replaced with other rick houses or they still use them for experimental things or for barrels that they want to have affected that way.
Hmm.
But yeah, well, after doing all this talking, it sounds like I need to go down there again because there's the
There
things
you
that I
go.
learned the last time I was down there, but that I think was actually right immediately before the pandemic because we had taken a trip to Texas, I think in
Wow.
January 2020.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
So
there
I
you go.
think,
Five years. It'll be 6 years in January. It'd be perfect time. So,
yeah, well, maybe we got, well, not a bad place to go that time of year, frankly.
right. Yeah.
So, alrighty. So moving on. So this one we talked about briefly. So Little Book, The Infinite Edition 2 from the James B. Beam Distilling Company continues the line's annual tradition of evolving the original blend by adding new components each year. The second edition is bottled at 120.8 proof with a suggested retail price of $200. The blend includes 4 Kentucky Straight bourbon components, a 22-year bourbon from Booker No, who we know is no longer with us, but it obviously distilled by him, a 10-year bourbon from Fred No, a 7-year extended fermentation bourbon from Freddie No, and a portion of last year's Little Book, The Infinite One. And I believe that's 30% of this blend. I don't think it said it on there, but Freddie said it at the dinner.
Okay. Good.
Booker's
Good.
bourbon brings oak, char, and smoke. Fred No's bourbon adds rich vanilla, caramel, and dark stone fruit. And Freddie's bourbon brings brightness with fresh apple and pear. Together, they represent the 3 generations of Beam family whiskey making. So it is. This is a pretty cool. I like these. The infinite. Just the
Yeah.
idea of it's very cool.
It is. Yeah. I mean, to have three different generations, uh, creations of three different generations, melded together. Um, and I think, I mean, I assume that there's going to be some of each batch in future batches. That's why it's infinite, right? I mean,
Yeah. No, it's going to go on forever.
right. There's still some of the infinite one batch left, and now there's going to be some of this infinite two batch to feed into that. And so, great way to start a new tradition. And yeah, I'm looking forward to finding a bottle of this. I find these are findable. They will sell out, I think, but if you're uh, prompt, you'll find one of these. And I think it's well, for the price point, it's well worth it. I've always been happy with the infinite bottles.
Yeah. If it follows how last year did, the Booker's Reserve sold out really quickly. The
Hmm.
Infinite lasted longer, but there's a significant price difference between the two. I think the Booker's Reserve, I don't remember what it is this year, but I think it's like ballpark of around 130. It was significantly less expensive. So
That's true.
I think
Yeah.
that probably had something to do with it. But yeah, they will definitely sell out at some point, but you probably will have
Hmm.
a good window to buy it in. All right, so next is from our friends at Heaven Hill. They celebrate their 90th anniversary coming up very soon with a limited release 9-year-old Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey. Crafted from Heaven Hill's traditional bourbon mash bill, 78% corn, 12% malted barley, and 10% rye, this 107 proof bourbon is a blend of 70% Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey and 30% Kentucky Bourbon, which was aged in heavy char barrels. So they're both obviously Kentucky Heaven Hills standard mash bill bourbon, but one was aged, that 30% was aged in heavy char barrels. Each of the 204 barrels selected for this release was produced on December 13th, 2015, which was marking Heaven Hill's 80th anniversary, and matured for 9 years and 8 months in Rickhouse's G&H on the 4th and 6th floors. It is bottled non-chill filtered and priced at $125, with nationwide availability beginning October 2025.
Great thing to celebrate, right? Being 90 years old, and yeah, Heaven Hill makes wonderful products overall. A little bit interesting that this isn't at 100 proof, that it isn't bottled and bond because that's the Heaven Hill mantra. But I'm glad to see it. at more of a cask strength, 107 and a 9-year-old product. If they had, I guess it was 10 years and 100 proof, it'd be Henry McKenna, right? So they had to distinguish it somehow. And this is a great way to do it, right? So, and it sounds like there's going to be enough of it, it should be findable.
Yeah, I mean, well, and the heavy char barrels distinguish it from McKenna because the standard Heaven Hill barrels char 3, I believe.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. That's an interesting, nice 70-30 split so that heavy char won't overpower things, but it'll add a great depth to it, I suspect.
yeah. Yeah, no, it'll be interesting to try it. Yeah, it's a 9 year. It is a special, oh, it's almost 10 years,
Hmm.
125. Yeah, I thought the nationwide availability part was a little unusual. I guess I would have thought it would have been one of those things that was going to only be available at the distillery, and people could maybe buy it all year or I don't know what I thought.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
because
Well,
I think that
it,
80th
it,
anniversary one went really quickly, as I recall.
yeah,
I don't
it
actually
probably
have
will.
a bottle of that. It's one of the few Heaven Hill things I don't have.
Right. It probably will be harder to find here because there's going to be more demand here. And if there's nationwide distribution, then it means there's less of it to be here, right? It's just by definition. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
You have to head over to the distillery, see if you can scare one up.
well, I get to scare one up because we get them for Connoisseur Circle. So I
Ah, there
think
you
at our
go.
next happy hour we actually get it. So I mean, we buy it. We don't get.
I understand. Yeah, yeah.
Be nice to get, but no, we buy. All right, so moving on. Southern Distilling Company has released the second batch of its limited edition Southern Star Cask Strength Bourbon finished in honey barrels, a 7-year aged 108.4 proof bourbon finished in locally sourced wildflower honey saturated barrels. This limited expression became available November 8th at the Southern Distilling Company tasting room in Statesville, North Carolina, which is north of Charlotte, and at select ABC stores across the state. In celebration of the launch, Southern Distilling Company will serve 4 honey-forward cocktails at its Statesville tasting room, including the Buzz, which is made with Southern Star Double Shot and Southern Star Bourbon finished in honey barrels. So a coffee, honey, sounds like a good way to start the
Yeah,
day.
yeah.
A limited distillery exclusive gift bundle for $65 will also be available, or is, featuring the new Honey Barrel Bourbon, Barrel Aged Honey, and Hot Honey Brittle. So for the bourbon, the honey finished bourbon, the suggested retail price is $50 for a 375 milliliter bottle. And I put a little note on this when I had done the newsletter because they gave some more details on the website, but I think they might have been for the first release, which was much
Hmm.
smaller. Because the way they word this is that they're locally sourced wildflowers, honey saturated barrels for the current one, but for the prior one, it said that it was their barrels that went to a local honey place where they aged the honey in the barrels and then gave the barrels back after they dumped the honey. So I don't know if this batch was too big for that or if that same thing happened this time and they just didn't put it in the press
Right,
release.
right. Yeah, I mean, they had a pretty long finishing time in these barrels. They were back in these honey barrels for a year, it said on the website, which I think is a pretty long time to be finished in something that sweet.
Yeah.
So, um, it looks like it's just going to be available in North Carolina too for all our North Carolina listeners and viewers. Go find us a bottle. Ed will, if they don't send Ed a bottle, you can send Ed a bottle and review it, on the website. So.
Well, they sent Ed a bottle, so I'll be be reviewing it. But I'm also going to be there because my brother-in-law and sister-in-law live in Charlotte, and we're going there for Thanksgiving. And I've
Oh,
actually
great.
been to this distillery a number of times, so there's a really good chance we're going to get up there again whenever that is. Next week is Thanksgiving, the week after. Yeah,
Week
very
after.
soon.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's upon us. Yeah.
It is. So I'll get to try one of those. I'll get to try that. I'll go there first thing in the morning and have that double shot
There you go.
with.
Yeah. Yeah. And I assume that the hot brittle peanut brittle is. hot spicy, not hot melty and gooey. But you can let us know when you sample.
Well, I assume it'd be a very messy gift set if there was hot honey, molten hot honey brittle
It would.
inside.
Yeah.
But plus, you'd
Yeah.
have to give the gift immediately. So, but yeah,
Uh,
that sounds good. I want to try some hot honey brittle.
hmm Yeah, I mean, I like the way they are. They're being creative with the product, right? They're expanding on what they're going to be able to sell it with, and expanding. Hopefully they have a decent profit margin in the gift aspect of it, and making a drink out of it. So it's a great way to do that, I think.
Yeah,
So
I've been a fan of Southern Distilling makes very good whiskeys, and I mean, we've talked about them. I think they've come up in the news here and there with things. They had recently
hmm
won. I don't remember who gave them the award, but Distillery of the Year in something recently, and they're a very big contract distiller as well
right.
as having their own line. But their quality is very good, and yeah, sort of digressing. But I mean, it's been interesting to see over the years I've visited them. They've gone from having like I think just two small stills initially, and now they have like a battery of them. So it's their production has had increased very rapidly.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's hope that it stays steady for them because we know that production, distilleries relying on production too heavily right now are seeing some financial hits. So hope they're still keeping everybody busy making good whiskey and that people are buying it. So
Yeah, well, we talked about all that stuff last week when you were on assignment.
yeah, no, I heard all that. It's like, yep, it's I get to talk about new releases and I don't have to talk about doom and gloom. So that's great.
No, these are much cheerier
They
episodes.
really are. Yeah, a lot more fun. A lot more fun.
All right, so next we move on to Michter's. So they're going to release their limited Michter's 20-year Kentucky Straight Bourbon beginning December 1st, following the brand named the world's most admired whiskey for the third time by Drinks International in 2025. Approved by Master Distiller Dan McKee and Master of Maturation Andrew Wilson, this rare expression is aged 2 decades in new charred oak and bottled at 114.2 proof. The suggested retail price is $1,200 for a 750 milliliter bottle.
I mean, I don't know what else you can say about Michter's. They just sort of, they just did a three-peat on most admired whiskey. Um, certainly $1,200 is a lot of scratch. It's a lot of money, but they won't release this if it's not stellar because they don't release it every year as a 20-year, right? So
They've
I
even skipped
certainly
their
have a lot.
10-year. There was that one year
Yeah,
they skipped the 10-year because they didn't have anything that met what they want. So when they
right.
release something, it's going to be up to good. I mean, their stuff is always very good, but
It is. Yeah, no, I trust Dan and Andrea to only release what's really good, especially at this age and this price point, right? They're going to be, it's just going to be a stellar bourbon, and um, you know, maybe one day I'll find a bottle. We need to go to Evergreen Happy Hour, Ed, and sample this when they have it. So
yeah. Well, unfortunately, I haven't been able to go to I go to them very rarely because they're Wednesdays, and that's the one day that I work at my
Mhm.
old job. So I have not been able to go to those very much. Like I think I've been once since July. So
Yeah,
unfortunately,
yeah,
that's deeply hurting my ability to taste things like King of Kentucky and things like this.
right,
So
right.
yeah, well,
No, I'll call Andrea and have her send you a bottle to review. How about that?
yeah.
That won't get you a bottle, but I'll call her and ask her.
I was just figuring you were going to buy one, no matter what it cost. So I'm looking forward to that.
Unfortunately, still got to pay for vacation. So,
All right, so moving on. So next is Willett. So this is an exciting one. The Willett Distillery has announced the release of their newest expression, the Willett Family Estate Small Batch Bourbon, a handcrafted whiskey created under fifth generation master distiller Drew Colsveen. It joins the Willett Family Estate Small Batch Rye as a younger, lower-priced addition to the Family Estate Bourbon series. The small batch release is a marriage of two distinct mash bills, in their words, thoughtfully selected and blended to create a bourbon of remarkable depth and character. They are 70% of a 72% corn, 13% rye, 15% malted barley mash bill, and 30% of a 52% corn, 38% rye, 10% malted barley mash bill. Each batch is comprised of around 50 barrels, distilled, this is their wording, distilled at a barrel entry proof of 125 and bottled at cask strength, which will vary by batch. The Willett family estate small batch bourbon will be released in limited quantities nationwide. And it started to pop up actually in Lexington, and they've had it at the distillery now. I haven't gotten a chance to get it yet,
Hmm.
but I think it started appearing there whatever day that mailing came out, November 6th, I think. But I think they have it every morning, I've heard, but it doesn't last, surprisingly.
Right, right. Yeah. I think that's a great expansion of the product line, right? I mean, there's enough demand out there for Willett's products. Although I do see their the rye that is a similar product. Um, I see that a lot more regularly on the shelf than I used to. Used to be you'd see those, they'd come out and they'd be gone in a couple of weeks. Now they seem to be there all the time. So
Hmm.
but good, we need a Willett bourbon out there. They won't have any problems selling it, I'm sure.
No, I'm sure they won't, especially because it looks like the standard Willett family estate with the purple
Right.
top. So the press release didn't have the price, but according to the Lexington Herald Leader had a price, which they said $67 was a suggested retail price. So that's
That's
basically in line with the rye,
right. Yeah.
a little
Yeah, that's the
higher.
same, roughly the same price. I mean, I've seen that anywhere from 65 to 75, depends on, which store you're at and what their markup is. But
Or dropping lower. I mean, it was up there for a while, and then it's gradually started decreasing in
mhm,
price. So
yeah, yeah,
I mean, obviously, this one's going to be hard. It's not meant to be hard to get, of course, but it's going to be very difficult to get for a
yeah,
while. And then at some
right up
point,
front.
they'll be quite
Yeah, yeah,
ideally. I mean, their goal is to have it out there.
yeah, yeah. You're still it's gonna be hard finding single barrels, but it's good for them because this stuff, like you say, this will start flying off the shelves. Eventually, I think it'll be like the rye, where you'll be able to find it more regularly, but they'll always have a market for this stuff. So
Hmm.
I think it's a great addition to the product line.
And I've heard it's very good, and uh, yeah. So I mean, I had no real doubt that it would be very good, but I've heard it's very good. I need to taste it for myself one of these days. It's a whopping 5 minutes away from where I am now. But they're not open today.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah.
All right. Actually, they're open. It's hard to keep track. They're not open today, which is Sunday. They are open Monday when this will air.
Monday. Yeah, yeah.
All right. So moving on. It wouldn't be a week of new releases if we didn't have the World Whiskey Society, probably the most prolific brand out there. I think it's every newsletter has something from them.
It seems like at least lately it does. Yes. So
So they've introduced the newest release in their Doc Holliday series, the Doc Holliday 16-year cigar blend. This 16-year-old Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey unites three distinct cask finishes: Tokaji, Armagnac, and White Port. Bottled at a cask strength of 124.2 proof, it was handcrafted in collaboration with master distiller Chip Tate. The Doc Holliday 16-year cigar blend is available for $450 through the World Whiskey Society online shop.
and I don't know that much about Chip Tate. You'll correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe he started at Balcones, and now he's working with a place in Garrett County called Burnt Tavern, if I'm thinking about the right person. So he's got an excellent reputation. So that would make me have faith in this, because as our listeners know, World Whiskey doesn't really give you a lot of information about the actual juice, right? Where did the juice come from? At least we know this one is finished in three different, casks after it was a bourbon. So um, a little plug for World Whiskey is I went on the website and they have two other Doc Holliday 13-year-olds, one finished in an Oloroso cask and unfinished in an Armagnac cask, and those are $200 as opposed to 450. 3 years younger, different finishes, but
You mean this
you
one?
know, that's the one. Yeah, there you go.
That's one
So
of them because we had talked about these on one episode where they had the
yeah,
four releases that time. They had, I believe both of these, and they were both at, weren't they one cask strength? And there was some differences between them. I can't remember, but it was
yeah. I
those
think I
two
think they were both
finishes that
cast
I
strength.
think at
Maybe
different
just
proofs or no, different
yeah,
ages. There were like 8 or 9 years, and then there were the 13 years or
13.
something.
There you go. Right. All
So
right. So they've got an interesting selection of whiskey. You got to give it to them. They've got stuff that you won't find anywhere else. Um, and so it's
well,
meant for collectors,
and you get
obviously.
the skull on the on the bottle, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and the ones this year
Oh,
had
and the
they had
revolver thing on the bolt. The
I was going to say this year's have turkey toppers. They have little metal turkeys on top of the 13-year-olds because they're Thanksgiving releases. So
hmm.
you know, yeah, that's a little gimmicky, but it's fun. It's nice to bring that out to the Thanksgiving dinner and serve it. You'll be the only one on your block probably if you have one of those. So
Yeah. No, it's cool. I mean, they definitely just keep coming out with different releases. They're keeping busy over there, World Whiskey
they are, yeah,
Society.
that's right, right.
All right. So next is we've actually been talking about Milam Greene quite a bit lately as well. So Milam Greene has released Unabridged Bourbon Volume 4, which debuts at the distillery on November 8th. So that was recently. With limited online quantities becoming available on November 19th. So that's coming up, this Wednesday?
Yeah, that's right.
So Volume 4 was crafted from 8 carefully chosen casks. So it's a pretty small release. It's just 8 barrels.
Hmm.
The smallest yield in the series to date. The blend combines matured Kentucky and Tennessee bourbons with Milam Greene's own Kentucky and Texas distilled whiskeys, featuring their signature malted rye. Which is interesting. So the full composition, I don't know if we want to read the entire thing, but we will because it's just interesting because it's an interesting
It
blend. So
was. Yeah,
it's
yeah.
8% of 10-year Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey, 10% of 9-year Tennessee straight bourbon whiskey, 40% 8-year Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey, 23% 7-year Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey, 4% 6-year Texas straight bourbon whiskey with the malted rye mash bill, and 15% 5-year Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey with the malted rye mash bill. And it's bottled at 118.4 proof, and it reflects their approach of marrying the different barrels from different places. They've done this from the beginning, and different
Hmm.
climates and different ages. And then, as we've talked about in the past as well, these barrels that were distilled elsewhere then get to spend some extra time in the Texas heat where they get a little bit of that terroir effect. So, I mean, they've definitely created their own style, and
Yeah,
these past
yeah.
releases have been
It's,
good. This one's suggested retail price of $95.
yeah.
I'm sure it's going to be
Aren't
good
they the
too.
ones who call it texification when
Yeah,
they age it there? Yes,
they call it
yeah.
Texas.
We know it has some effect on it. This is quick math. About two-thirds of it is 7 and 8-year-old Kentucky bourbon, so that's going to be the backbone of it. And since we're here in Kentucky, you can't go wrong with that, right? Um, when hopes that the amounts of Tennessee and other bourbon are small enough that it doesn't ruin the Kentucky bourbon, right? And I'm sure it doesn't. I mean, they're really good at blending this all together and making it better than the sum of the parts.
Well, and that climate actually has a massive effect because we don't know how long. I mean, some of these Kentucky barrels were probably aged in Texas for quite a while, and they
Hmm.
had released. We talked about it. I don't know, maybe 6 months ago. The answer it was called, and it was a set of the
Yeah.
exact same distillate distilled in Kentucky, I believe at Bardstown Bourbon Company, and half the barrels aged up in Kentucky here, and the other
Hmm.
half aged in Texas. And they were packaged as a set of two bottles, I think 375s, maybe could have been
Hmm.
200s. I think
Hmm.
375s. Um, but I had the opportunity. I don't have a set. I actually need one, but I think I lost my opportunity. But I did get to try them side by side, and it's a massive difference. You
I
wouldn't.
bet.
I mean, it's so huge. So this texification process of theirs, it really does change the flavor from what the Kentucky bourbon would taste like.
Hmm.
The Texas, it gets, yeah. I mean, it's very full. It's very dominant in a blend. Like when you blended the two together, you needed
Hmm.
very little of the Texas before you knew that it was there. I mean, it quickly made the whole blend taste like the Texas, which was
Got it.
interesting.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
it has a massive effect. It's
Well,
pretty
yeah, and
amazing.
I assume it intensifies all the flavors because again, the evaporation factor
Yeah,
is just stronger. It's going deeper into the wood because it's getting hotter, and all those things are adding more flavors to it more quickly. So,
yeah.
um,
No, it's a very cool comparison that because yeah, I mean, I can't think of really. I think Balcones did some sort of a similar experiment at one point where they sent barrels,
mhm.
I think even all around the world, but they didn't package that for normal people to be able to buy. I think you had to be part of them to to taste the difference. Whereas
Right.
Milam
Yeah.
Greene actually let other people try it, which
Huh.
is very cool.
That's neat. Yeah.
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 All
And
right.
again,
So
they've found something that's going to help them survive the downturn, right? They've got these unique products and a unique way of doing it, and that's what it's going to take. So,
yeah, no, they've definitely got their own approach, and it turns out to make a very good whiskey. So yeah, I like their products. So next is Copper and Kings. So they've got a lot going on. So we had talked about them a little while ago that they had been purchased.
mhm.
So Copper and Kings American Brandy Company, part of Bourbon Spirits Company, has unveiled a new flagship portfolio featuring three spirits that redefine the American brandy category. The lineup includes the 6-year American Brandy VSOP, aged 6 years, 86 proof, $20. The 6-year American Apple Brandy, which is bottled in bond, so 100 proof, and $25. And a straight bourbon whiskey made from a blend of straight bourbons aged 5 to 15 years and finished for up to 3 years in their brandy barrels. And they don't give the proof on that one, but it's $30. The new portfolio follows Bourbon Spirits Company's August 2025 acquisition of Copper and Kings and is available now at the distillery in Louisville, Butchertown neighborhood, with select distribution rolling out. So they've been busy there too.
They were hard to beat those price points. You know, if those
Yeah.
products appeal, that seems like a really fair price. I did see the bourbon is actually they describe it a little bit in more detail as being a blend of 5-year, 10-year, and 15-year-old bourbons. And so, don't know the percentages of those, but it's not just a random sampling, apparently, of something between 5 and 15. They've got there's three age points that they're working to blend together and then finish in the apple brandy cask. So, um, should be good stuff. I mean, they're known for making good brandies, and um, I don't know that we'll ever get. Kentucky's got some reputation as a winery state, and certainly as a bourbon state. I don't know if we're ever going to get a reputation as a brandy state, but if we do, it'll be Copper and Kings that does it.
Oh yeah, they've been on the brandy since the beginning. But have you? Did you
Yeah,
have their last bourbon, which was also finished in the? Came out
I have
like three
not.
years ago.
No, no.
Because I had reviewed that then, and it was also it came out
Mhm.
at a very good price point. I can't remember exactly what its ages were offhand, uh, but I don't know. It was in the at least Kroger I think sold it for like $42 or
Yeah.
45, and I thought that was a very good bourbon and also at a very good price point. And if I remember correctly, this Bourbon Spirits they're pretty much incorporated to own Copper and Kings, right? I don't think
Hmm.
they have other brands, but I could be
I
wrong.
think that's right. Yeah, that's what I recall too when we read about them buying Copper and Kings. So I think they're the vehicle to own and operate Copper and Kings with some outside money and some new ideas. It sounds like. So
Yeah,
although this probably was in the works for a while and didn't just happen overnight.
yeah. Well, I mean, it is basically along the same lines of what they've been doing because the brandies are obviously they've been
Hmm.
doing brandies and did a similar bourbon. So it's really just new releases of them. But the price points are great, and their things are good as well. So I haven't had
Yeah.
any of these, but I did really like that prior bourbon. All right, so next, another Beam product. So Booker's Bourbon has released the final batch of 2025 Booker's Phantom Pipes batch, inspired by a maze of unused phantom pipes discovered in the rafters of their Boston distillery, remnants of Booker knows constant tinkering and engineering experiments. The batch is bottled uncut and unfiltered at 126.4 proof, with the youngest component aged 7 years, 6 months, and 15 days. It is comprised of barrels from 5 production dates, including selections from warehouses 3, 1, G, 0, or O, and 4. And the bourbons come from the 3rd through 6th floors. And they're much more specific about that, but I didn't think anybody wants to hear me read off every single one of those. And the suggested retail price is $100, as is the standard Booker's price these days.
Standard Booker's pricing. That's right. And again, you look at this and you look at the Infinite, and I mean, I think the product you're getting at the price point just can't be beat. I mean, it's I get it. Not everybody's out there looking for $100 bottle of whiskey, but or if you are, it's hard to beat the consistency and the overall quality of what Beam is putting out. So um, this it's interesting. On the website they mentioned that Booker was the experimenter, and he would put these pipes up, and maintenance would come in at night and take them down, and he'd put the pipes back up. So that's like, and eventually, I guess they got tired of taking them down, and some of them stayed up there. So, and next time I go out there and I take a tour, well, I don't know if you can tour Boston, can you?
No.
It'd be fun to try and see if they're still out there. Anyway.
No, I'm sure they'll let you just rummage around.
Yeah.
Oh, how could I forget that? The Knob 21.
Oh, wow. How could you? Right? I'm dismayed.
Yeah. All right. Well, everybody, somehow I managed to forget the Knob Creek 21, which doesn't come out for real until this, I think this Thursday is the dinner at the kitchen table. That will be where it is first officially sold and released to people that have bought tickets to that dinner. And then I believe it goes on sale. It's going to be either that Friday morning or the Saturday. I think I saw the Saturday, but it might wind up being Friday. I don't quote me. Check,
right, yeah. Don't go line up just because it says so. Okay.
Their social medias. I suspect that dinner's sold out. That the Knob Creek 21 is going to be pretty popular.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt, no doubt. It's interesting though that the lineage, made a bigger impression on you than the Knob Creek 21, but that is what it is. I mean, again, I'm sure they're all wonderful, and there's also one that stands out. It seems like when you have a flight. So,
Well, quite honestly, I'm gonna have to. Well, I'll get to try the Knob 21 again because I have one coming in barreled in box, which I think is being delivered today, which will be Monday. Um, so I'll get to try it again. But honestly, I didn't really love it. I mean, it seemed to have less body than the younger ones. It was starting to get a little bit more oaky. It didn't. It definitely was not my favorite of the flight. I mean, I know it's going to be in huge demand because of
right.
what it is, but yeah, and I'm a huge Knob Creek fan, so it was a little disappointing to me, frankly.
Well, it's an honest mantra that age doesn't always mean better, and um, Knob Creek at the 9 to 12 year age range is always good. I found, 15 you used to be able to get 15-year-old barrel picks, and those were lovely.
Those are fantastic, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think I tried the 18 a while back, and I wasn't. Again, I didn't feel it was all that much better than a 12 or 15-year-old. So
Yeah, I think it starts passing its sweet spot. I mean,
right,
it's the very rare bourbon that really becomes better at those older ages. Everybody gets all excited about them and wants them, but
Yeah.
it's it they don't it doesn't necessarily make them better. Uh,
Well, we're going to get to another one of those in just a minute after we talk about wheel horse.
we are, and then but this is also a good segue to discuss what we're sipping on. So you're drinking your Irish whiskey you got in the Bahamas.
So I have Shanky's Whip, which is again, it's a it's distilled from whey, which I've never heard of. It's 66 proof, so it's low proof. Um, it needs some water or some ice. The sweetness because it's got caramel coloring and additives. It's pretty overpowering. I mean, it's very vanilla marshmallow, toasted marshmallow, a lot of butterscotch, but just overwhelmingly sweet. So I think it could be really good with something, but it's not for sipping neat.
Uh,
What are you sipping on?
Well, what I'm sipping on, which is why the segue was appropriate. So this is the youngest Elijah Craig barrel proof regular release. Oop, it's disappearing into my virtual
Yeah.
background on Zoom here. But it's the youngest Elijah Craig barrel proof regular release that's ever been released. So
Hmm.
it's the C925, so the one that's coming out now, which I don't
Right.
believe we've ever actually seen a press release for.
I have not seen a press. Well, I wouldn't see the press release. I've seen some online reviews. That's all I've seen so far.
Well, you'll see mine soon, or you're gonna hear it now. But no, so this is 9 year 1 month, and
Wow.
the next closest, because if we want to trust my AI search of it, was
Yeah,
10 years 7 months. So that's significantly younger.
it is.
And
Yeah.
for something that used to be 12 years, I mean, again,
Hmm.
the age statement is not everything, but until very recently, it was a 12-year age stated product, and then they got rid of that age statement, what, 2 years ago or
Right.
something like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, so 9 years 1 month is a significantly
That's yeah.
different.
It's 25% younger. So what's
Yeah.
what's the
So
proof point on
the proof it's 129,
it? Okay. Yeah.
so it's up there. But yeah, so it's interesting because I mean, I think some of the actual store picks, the single barrels, a lot of those are definitely in the 9 year range, and
Right.
some of them have been. I feel like I've tried one that's 8 even, which
Hmm.
but the store picks to me, or the single barrels just in general, they don't have the character that the small batches do, which is what the regular releases of the Elijah Craig Barrel Proof are. So I had faith that this being one of those, that they would be blending it to the characteristic profile.
Right.
And I mean, again, that's a 9 year 1 month age statement, which only means it's the youngest thing in there.
Hmm.
So I don't, as far as I know, these are not pulled from just one batch of barrels, right? I mean, so there could easily be 12-year in there.
Right. Right.
So,
So what do you think about it? How do you like it?
well, I opened it a few days ago and I had posted that online when I did in my Instagram story. And I didn't talk about the tasting notes at that point. So at that point, it was hot and I didn't think had particularly developed flavors. But that
Hmm.
wouldn't surprise me at all for any high 129
Yeah.
proof. I mean, most of the time they need air. So this is now a couple days later, and the flavors have actually developed really nicely. I don't think you would be guessing that this is significantly younger. I mean, and maybe it's not. Maybe there's 5 barrels of 9 year in there. Who knows? I mean, I doubt it.
Right.
There's probably a significant number, but no, it's got the characteristic flavors. It's got brown sugar, toffee, vanilla. That just the heat that it had when I first opened it with
Yeah.
has
Yeah.
subsided. The flavors have developed much more, so it's actually quite good. I mean, it'd be interesting to taste it in a blind and see if. I mean, they're all going to be different, but to pick out
They are. Yeah.
which one's youngest,
Uh-huh.
because I've heard some people have done
Okay.
blinds just to compare whether bottles have been open or not, and that's hard to
Hmm.
pick out.
I was going to say, I mean, a lot of times with Elijah Craig products, I like them better once they've been open for days or weeks or even months
Yeah.
because the first crack tends to be a little bit hot. Um, you don't get all the depth that it's going to develop, after a little bit of time and exposure to the air. So I'm glad to hear that this one works out that way too. So,
Yeah, because I think it's been open like at least 3 days now. So it's had,
mhm.
and it got to drive from Lexington to to Bardstown with
So it
me
aerated. Yeah,
after it was
yeah,
open. Yeah, so it got to mix up a little bit. So yeah, it's coming along nicely. I like it.
yeah.
I mean, I'll taste it. Well, I'm sure it's just going to continue to evolve, but at some point you have to say what it tastes
Well,
like.
good. I think you made the better choice on sips tonight.
Well, yes, I don't think I've ever gone wrong with an Elijah Craig barrel proof.
Right.
Certainly
Yeah.
one of my
Yeah.
favorite bourbons out
I
there.
agree. Yeah. Yeah. They're always good. And but I will agree with you that the barrel picks can be hit and miss. I've had, people that have picked them that are just wonderful and others that are going like, yeah, that's not, you didn't do a great job.
Yeah. All right. So moving on. So Wheelhorse has released Wheelhorse Barrel Master Select Barrel Proof Rye, the first barrel proof rye whiskey from the brand. Batch 1 is distilled and matured in Owensboro, Kentucky, and is a blend of 9-year, 95% barrels aged between 5 years and 8 months and 6 years. Well, what did I say here? But yeah, right. So it was, and then they're secondarily aged for a little bit at Wheelhorse in Rhode Island. The barrels were hand selected by barrel master Stephen Corrigan, and this inaugural release is non-chill filtered, limited to 1,800 bottles, and bottled at 120.4 proof with an SRP of around $40. It's now available in about 15 states. That's their words too. I thought the about was. It seems like you would know. And in over 30 states online. So, and then before anybody says anything, every time I talk about one of these wheel horses, they're always priced a few dollars higher on the website. So that is
Yeah.
the suggested retail price from them, $40. And I'm sure it's going to be like 43 or something on the website.
That's
So I don't,
exactly what it was when I looked earlier today. So I
yeah,
guess 43 on their website. So,
because I
it
always
is
get
what it
some
is.
comments about the prices wrong, but that's just
Yeah.
how it is. I don't know where those extra charges come from, if they include credit card fees or processing charges, but it's always a little higher on the website.
Still a fair price for a product like this. I mean, it's a literal small batch, and 120 proof is a good proof point. I'm a big fan of ryes, and so I'd love to try and scare one of these up and give it a try one of these days. So
Yeah, well, I mean, it's basically, for all intents and purposes, a 6-year barrel proof rye for $40.
yeah,
So
right. Hard to
that's
beat
pretty
that.
good. And we know it's distilled at Green River, and I'm a fan of their rye.
Yes.
So yeah, definitely. There should actually be a sample of this coming as well. All right, so next, the opposite end of the spectrum, the Blade and Bow has unveiled its oldest whiskey to date. Blade and Bow 30-year-old Kentucky Straight Bourbon was first laid to rest in the spring of 1993 in the legendary, these are not my words, patented rick houses of Stitzel-Weller Distillery. This limited release is a blend of liquid pulled from just 42 barrels and bottled at 109 proof with a suggested retail price of $1,200 for a 750 milliliter bottle. Diageo's Director of American Whiskey Liquid Development and Capabilities, Nicole Austin, hand-selected each barrel during a meticulous post-maturation process. At a certain point during maturation, before Diageo acquired Stitzel-Weller, semi-empty barrels were consolidated to maintain full contact with the wood, again their words, preserving balance and preventing over-oaking despite evaporation. Availability began nationwide in November 2025 and in the visitor center at Stitzel-Weller Distillery beginning this past Friday. And we don't know what that means because they have a habit of selling one bottle a day at the distillery of these
Wow.
things, which may be what they did. I do not
Hmm.
know. Including individual pours, which are priced at $225 at the Garden and Gun Club, which is the little bar restaurant at the Stitzel-Weller Distillery. And if you order that, it comes on a custom gold tray, and you get premium glassware and some keepsake items in a refined bag. there you have it. There's
It's
lots to talk about on this one.
interesting. I mean, you point out that they don't say that it's did so well or distill it, just that it aged there. So there's a
Right.
question mark there. The consolidating barrels is a concept I've certainly never heard of before. And it's interesting that they say it happened before Diageo purchased Blade and Bow.
Right.
So, and there's 42 barrels in this batch, so there's going to be a fair amount of it, one would expect. So maybe they'll sell more than a bottle a day at the distillery, but
Yeah.
I don't know. With my $1,200, should I get the Michter's 20 or the Blade and Bow 30? That's a tough call. Fortunately, I don't have the $1,200, so I don't have to decide.
I'd have to say it's probably not a tough call. I would go with the Michter's 20 any day because I don't think there's any doubt that that's going to be delicious. I would very much wonder about this, and there's too much hand waving for the price, frankly.
Yeah, yeah. I
So,
laid that out as a softball for you, Ed. That's exactly where I wanted you to go with this.
but I mean, I didn't understand any of this stuff. So, I mean, so obviously, I understand blending the barrels to keep them full, but I don't know how does that maintain full contact with the wood. I mean, you're contacting the wood anyway. It's not.
Well, assuming they're in a rick house because they're not palletized, so they're on their side. Um, as volume goes down, there's less of the wood it's in contact with, and your surface area is getting bigger. So I sort of see it from a physics standpoint. The more liquid there is in a barrel, the more of it's going to be in contact with the wood. Um,
Yeah, but is that even correct? You'd have to do the whole volume thing. I mean, as the volume of liquid goes down and the level goes down, it's not like it's not like all the liquid's touching wood. I mean, they're only touching the sides and the bottom as it is. So, I mean,
sure,
if the volume
right.
is lower in the barrel, there's actually now greater contact with the wood because you have 3 inches that's sitting on the bottom that's wood as opposed to an entire barrel. So it seems like the opposite would be true. And I don't know how that preserves balance and prevents over oaking because I don't see how those are even related.
Right.
And
Yeah. I mean, unless
what it does
unless
do is
they're
cut down on the oxidation. That's the only
right.
thing. But I'm no expert in barrel aging. We have friends, some who may even be listening to this, who I would love to, or I know that they read my newsletter, so I would love to
Mhm.
hear what their thoughts on this is.
Yeah. 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 Because who was in charge of making sure when they were consolidating that they were barrels of the same age um, I mean, conceivably, you could have different ages. I don't think you could have different mash bills, but who knows, right? I mean, it throws some real questions into the ultimate product. The fact that it's gone through a consolidation, I mean, it's just not a term you hear. You hear blending, but consolidating is just a different take on it.
Well, it throws a lot, which is why Diageo is sort of denying any accountability for it. Because now, at least they could read the barrel heads of these 30-year-old barrels and have some idea with what it's stamped with and where its origin might have been. But now,
Yeah,
a bunch of them are dumped into barrels that are not their original barrels, and those barrels are long gone. So you have no idea what was put in there, exactly as you said. I mean,
yeah, yeah,
and and they don't either if it's before. And who knows if anybody kept
right.
records, but if they did, it wasn't going to be easily searchable computer. So
No,
yeah, so I think it's a big question.
agreed. Yeah, yeah.
But
So
I don't know. So I mean, we're not going to get to try this, so it's really moot. But but it makes
I
for
don't know
good conversation.
if I hit a lottery ticket, I might go for the $225 pour. You never know.
Well, but that comes into like the thing of if I'm going to pay $225 for a pour, I might as well buy the bottle.
There
So
you go. Yeah, yeah.
well, whatever. It's well, we didn't win the $1 billion, so unless you bought your ticket in Georgia on the way out.
No, did
Uh,
not. did not. So I didn't win that one either. But
All right, so moving on. Actually, we're almost done. So next is Buffalo Trace Distillery has introduced Sazerac Rye Whiskey Full Proof as a permanent addition to its Sazerac Rye portfolio. Bottled at 125 proof, this new expression follows the recent debut of the brand's 100 proof release and is said to be made possible due to the distillery's recent and continued expansion. According to Buffalo Trace, the full proof release was enabled by its $1.2 billion production expansion, which includes new still houses and increased distilling capacity. The whiskey will be available, or is now available, beginning November 2025 in select U.S. markets for a suggested retail price of $40 for a 750 milliliter bottle. Currently going for up to $300 on the secondary market near you. Buffalo Trace is also offering a limited Sazerac Rye vertical tasting, which I probably shouldn't even talk about because it only ran from the 14th through the 16th, where you got to taste the Sazerac Rye 90, the 100 proof, the full proof, and the Sazerac 18 from the BTAC collection. And that was quite a deal because it only cost $10 for all of that, and you got a glass, and you got a 200 milliliter bottle of the Sazerac regular rye. So they basically paid you to taste all those things, which is and you got beignets awesome. Too. So yeah, for the New Orleans connection. So that was like a really good deal. But anyway, I digress. So let's talk about the rye.
Yeah, I mean, again, great price point. I love Sazerac. It's not age stated, of course, but my sense is that the expansion lets them put out more of the base level, the 90 proof rye, and therefore they're able to hold back some of the older stocks. Again, no, but nothing's age stated, but I would assume that the 100 proof and the full proof have a little bit more age on them than the everyday 90 proof stuff. But who knows?
Yeah, it's I forgot what the ballpark age is. I think they're around 6. Which confused me again because the expansion was just recently completed.
Yeah.
So I didn't actually understand what that had. They say that Buffalo Trace says that for a lot of things, that the expansion is now letting us put more of this, that, the other thing out. Except that, honestly, the math doesn't seem to work.
They're not putting out 2-year-old. Yeah, they're not putting out 2-year-old bourbon.
So
right?
I don't know, but they are putting more out because we see more things on the shelves nowadays, and I don't know if that reflects buying habits. I can tell you that when I was at Buffalo Trace for this tasting, there were still people waiting in line for very long periods of time to get in for the opportunity to buy the Taylor small batch and Eagle Rare 10, which were the regular releases for the day. So there's still plenty of demand for those, and people will stand in line for them. Also, but yeah, so I did get the opportunity to taste this, and I did buy a bottle, and I did bring it over to a little mini get together last night after Preservations party for us, and so everybody got to try it, and I tried it again. So and everybody, so the verdict is everybody likes it. It's got much more to it than the Sazerac 90. Which I personally I'm not a particularly big fan of because I feel that it's sort of lacking. But this certainly, the 100 makes up for that. Frankly, the 100 is very good, and the full proof it has, as you'd expect, just a lot more to it. It was very good. I thought it was a little too sweet when I tasted it at the original tasting. Maybe that was the beignets talking. I don't know, but it didn't taste that way to me last night. Last night I actually liked it quite a bit. So yeah, it's a good job. And if you can, like I said, it is going. It's been like every Sazerac product. It's being grabbed up. It is going for insane prices on the secondary. Someday when it's hopefully readily available at its $40, I assume it'll show up in the rotation at the distillery,
right? Yeah,
but it's going to be hard to get. I like
at least right away. Yeah. So I mean, they've ramped up expansion, so we expect expanding supply. So But yeah, I also find Sazerac is a little bit on the sweet end for a rye, and so it'd be nice to get the depth of something of this proof. I'm sure it's got to have better viscosity, better depth, a few more layers than the regular one. So um, pull out one of those 200 mLs, Ed, and set it aside so I can opine about it intelligently and not just guess.
Well, no, the 200 mLs are the 90. So
No,
I bought the
I'm
full
just thinking one
bottle.
of your empty 200
Oh,
mLs. And force them in there for me. I'm not.
well, you're welcome to it, but right now the bottle's here with me in Bardstown. So for your next assignment, you should come to Bardstown.
There you go. Yeah, yeah. Where's the closest beach? Yeah.
When you've
What?
got all that bourbon, you really don't worry about it.
I understand. Yeah.
All right, we got two more to go. Let's get these done and
All right.
call it a day. So, Old Forester announces the return of, these are just quick mentions. So, the return of their King Ranch edition. This fourth annual release again uses a unique production process. It is a proprietary batch using heavily charred barrels and filtered through King Ranch mesquite charcoal. It is again, it is again available only at select Texas retailers, and it's 105 proof, and they did not give the price on the press release. So, yeah, just a quick mention because it's really just in Texas, and I
Just
thought
in
they actually
Texas,
sold it in
right?
Oklahoma, or parts of Oklahoma. But
Yeah, yeah. It's probably an export to Oklahoma, but
yeah, they have to pay
it's
a
a neat
tariff.
concept. Yeah, yeah, and it's interesting that Old Forester does something like that because they don't. I mean, they've got their 375 experimental series, but this is really sort of a one-off on doing something special and just limiting it to one state and things like that. So I know they've done it before with the King Ranch, but um, good for them. Great marketing. They're going to sell all that out with no problem. I'm sure.
Yeah, and unfortunately, my wife was down there, but I think literally left the 2 days before this was released. So I do not
Yeah.
have one of these. But I do have the prior versions because we go down to Texas
Well,
all the time.
now between Garrison Brothers and this, you've got an excellent reason to go. So,
Yes, very true. All right, and lastly, but not least, Barrel Craft Spirits announced the 10th release in their annual series, Barrel Bourbon New Year 2026. It is crafted from, and nobody wants to hear me read all these, so it is crafted from bourbons of multiple ages, from 5 to 16 years old, and from multiple states of origin, including Kentucky, Indiana, Tennessee, Wyoming, New York, Ohio, and Maryland. And there are multiple ones from many of those states, so this is a big list, which we're not reading. So it's
yeah.
110.3 proof, and it's got a suggested retail price of around $85.
And most of the times when you see that many different inputs, you're going, how are they going to pull this off? But with Barrel, they do, and they do it over and over again. And so kudos to them for sourcing whiskeys from this many different places and then going through the process of coming up with a blend that is, I'm sure, going to be good. Their New Year bourbon every year is always well respected. So, and it's a fair price, right? $85 for something at this proof point and at this age, it's hard to beat what they're doing.
I've honestly never had one of the New Year ones. Have you?
I've had one of them. Yeah. Yeah. I've got one and I liked it. So I've got one. I've got an earlier one. I forget what year it was. But yeah, I mean, I've had it before and I thought it was good. So,
Yeah, I'm sure it is. I mean, they're experts at blending. It's what
right.
they do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Alrighty, well, that was a lot, and we talked a lot too, so hopefully we're not like crazy long here. And that about does it for this episode. I hope you've enjoyed this edition of the New Bourbon Releases News Podcast, your commercial free and therefore money free bourbon podcast. Please be sure to join us next Monday for our Bourbon and Distillery News Podcast. We're getting close to the holidays, but the way things are going, I'm sure we're still going to have a lot to talk about. Also, be sure to like and follow us at your preferred podcast provider so that you don't miss an episode, and don't forget to tell all your friends too. You can also head over to bourbonobsessed.com to check out some of our over 350 bourbon reviews and over 50 distillery write-ups. While you are there, you can sign up to have my newsletters delivered directly to your inbox. Finally, I can also be found on Instagram at Bourbon_Obsessed and on Facebook at Bourbon Obsessed, and would love for you to follow me there as well. Dean, where can they find you?
People find me on Dean of Bourbon with underscores on Instagram. That's the only platform I'm using at the moment, and maybe ever. You never know. So, but I'm trying to post more frequently there, and share what I'm doing in the bourbon world. So I've got some new followers. I appreciate all of you. Keep it up. Thanks.
All right. Thanks everybody. Thanks for joining us. Cheers. See you next time.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.